We are going back in time in this video. This is Virtual Man's 400 gigabyte retro bliss image. I'll put details in the description, but this one was initially made for the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus before the Raspberry Pi 4 has come to where it is today. But I wanted to have another look at this image because it was one of my favorite Raspberry Pi 3B Plus images, and I hear people all the time asking about, does this work on the Raspberry Pi 3? Does this work on the Raspberry Pi 4? And different, compatibility. And I also just thought about it, and I thought that, if you can find a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, and they're all over the place, especially for a good price, is it still worth it? And can you game on it? And the answer is heck yeah. And that's why I wanted to bust out this image, because this is a fresh boot. I reburned the file onto an SD card. I threw it into my Raspberry Pi. So everything you see here is just stock. It's already done for you. All the themes, it has the bezel project. I'll show you later on it. It has boot up videos. It has screensavers here. Watch, if I hit select, I can jump through different screensavers. And really beautiful stuff. And, as you see this theme here, all the video snaps and the box art and the ratings, a lot of this is done for you. Over 12,000 games. And really, the only thing you're missing out on with the Raspberry Pi 4 is some newer emulators, definitely. You're also not going to have the same amount of performance. It takes a little longer to switch out of your themes, and you can get this to lag if I really hit this hard and really scroll really fast. You're not going to get the same kind of performance in PSP and in Dreamcast and Nintendo 64. But there's still thousands on top of thousands of retro games that you can happily play on this system, and that's why we're looking at it. So let's jump into it. So on first boot, all games, 12,114. Remember, you can always hit select on your controller, select on your controller and jump to a letter at any time in any category. One of the nice things about Retro Pi. Favorites, he has some of his favorite games on here. So that's a great place to start as well if you're new to some really classic retro games. Last play will show you what games you've been playing recently. So I just played Street Fighter just a second ago. And Cody, if you want to watch movies or look at pictures or anything. I'm going to get into options later. That's actually one of the reasons why I really like this image, is a lot of pre-installed scripts that you don't have to install yourself. So going down, we got Amiga. You got 626 games. Amiga CD, you have 25. We're going to jump into one of these categories in a second. 114 CPC. Arcade Classics, over 1,700 games. And so, for example, if you want Mortal Kombat, you just go down to M over here. You can hit M. You should also have Moonwalker, the Michael Jackson game on here. You're going to have a lot. But Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel Superheroes. And those games are going to run fairly well on the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. So Michael Jackson's Moonwalker's on here, and then if we go down to MO, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, and then you have Ultimate Mortal Kombat as well, but that you're going to find in U because it has the word Ultimate in front of it. There you go. Fight. Moving along, you get your Atari systems. There you go. And then your Atari Portable, Lynx, Commodore 64, Coleco 140, Dafne. These are set up. This is another common question I get all the time, which is, does an image have Dafne or not? And look at this one. It has Dafne pre-set up. It's one of the harder emulators if you're new to get it working properly, just due to the way the emulator worked with CDs and things like that. Dreamcast, you have 28 games. Now, you will see some lag in these games. Some people will say they're unplayable. Others will say it's not too bad. Depends how much of a purist you are. If you really want to play Dreamcast, though, I would go and get a Raspberry Pi 4 or play it on my, laptop or something much more powerful. Family Computer System 386, Family Computer Disk System 128, Super Famicom 509, Nintendo Game & Watch 52, Game Gear 259, Game Boy 557. So it has all those games for those. That's pretty much all. These are all the games. It has every single game ever made that's not a fan-made game or wasn't made after release. MSX2, or after they stopped selling it, 100. Nintendo 64, only 30. Because, again, Nintendo 64 does not run very well on the Raspberry Pi 3 or 3B Plus. So a few of these games, though, will play, and some people like them. Nintendo DS 252. Neo Geo 140, Neo Geo CD 10, Neo Geo Pocket Color 40, NES 786. So you have all your NES games. So, everything from Battletoads, if you go down to B, to your Zeldas, your Links, Spaces Loaded, there's your Battletoads and Double Dragon. You've got it all on here. All right, SNES 788, pretty much all of them. Super Nintendo CD, these games had a different soundtrack. They're pretty cool to check out, especially from a sound perspective. Open Beats of Rage 61. There's actually a lot more of these now out there, and if you get Virtual Man's newer images, you'll see that they're included. Ports. These are the full games, so Brutal Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, Quake, it's not the shareware version, mission packs, and then you have these Zelda Mystery of Solus games as well. PSP 33, PSP Minis. These are the little mini games. They run really good on this system. PlayStation 415. Now I'm not going to go through all 400. That's a ton. If you're really into PlayStation games, he has since released pretty much the entire PlayStation set, or the majority of it, that you can get. You could probably add it onto this if you have a larger SD card or something like that, but the Raspberry Pi 4 does have a lot more support for external hard drives, so you can throw in, the whole entire PlayStation collection. And we'll save that for a different video, but as you see here, a huge PlayStation set in this particular image. ScumVM 96, Sega 32X32, Sega CD 100, SG 1068, 100 TurboGrafx 16 games. TurboGrafx CD 160, Texas Instruments 90, Vectrix 25, Virtual Boy 25, Virtual Boy, Sharp 68,000, 100, ZX Sinclair 180. And now you might be wondering what's beat 'em up to what's Capcom Classics. We're now at the point in the menu here where we're showing what they call, I meant to hit start. We're now in the menu where they call game collections. And there's something called custom game collections. And you can see here where there's a checkbox, there's a beat 'em ups box, there's a Capcom box, there's a Castlevania. So if you don't want these, you can go ahead and uncheck the box here, like I'm doing right now with my A button on my controller. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it as is and show you what he's put in here. So beat 'em ups, there's 448 beat 'em ups games. And what it does is it alphabetically orders all the different beat up games, even though if you look on the bottom right here, a lot of them are for different consoles. So for example, right here, this is a Super Famicom version of Alien vs. Predator, where if I go down one, it's the arcade version. You can see it both in the middle with the arcade name, and you can also see it on the box art itself. You can see on the box art here, it's CPS2. This next box art is just the SNES version. So, I wonder what the difference is between the Super Famicom and the SNES version. And so you can go on and on and on through these if you're looking for a particular type of game. Or maybe you like Capcom games, right? So those are going to be your CPS1, CPS2, CPS3 games. This might be a good place. Castlevania games, you like Castlevania. So you have all your different Castlevania games by system. Double Dragon, King of Fighters. So Super Mario, everyone, and their mother likes a good Mario game. And so you can see here everything from Mario Golf to Super Mario Brothers, which you should get down here and look at all those. There's a lot of Super Mario games to play, depending on, you know, what kind of graphics you want. I mean, they remake these games all the time, so you can play the portable version or the, you know, the SNES, you know, it goes on and on. Mega Man, so you got a lot here, a lot of Mega Mans. Metroid games, Mortal Kombat games, we talked about that earlier. But remember, we were just looking at the arcade games. Remember, the Ultimate Mortal Kombat, I think, came out for a few different systems. So, SNES and arcade. But you also have Trilogy, Mythologies, and then you have the originals. You also have Gold for Dreamcast. I think there's another 4 for, yeah, Game Boy Color, also for PlayStation. So quite a few to check out. So this is actually the NES Classic, if you see in the left-hand corner there. I don't know if everybody remembers that, but when they released the mini NES Classic. Now there's Virtual Man's Arcade, which are like some of his picks and arcade classics. Racing games, shoot 'em ups. So now the SNES Classic, the other little mini handheld system. Sonic. This image was made before the Genesis and the TurboGrafx 16 mini came out. So this image, you know, it doesn't have them because they weren't out at the time when this image first came out. Zelda games, Street Fighter games. Back to all games. So now I wanted to talk about those options that I said earlier that I was going to talk about. The first one is visuals and themes, and I started talking about that. Everything from hitting select to go to the screensavers to the bezel project. The bezel project you'll see when I play Street Fighter. It has those little bezels on the left and right side. Those are pre-installed for you. Hirsty's themes. A lot of the themes that have been well, the one you're seeing right now is called Floyd. But you'll notice as I scroll up here, there's all these different themes like Pac-Man, Outrun, Mortal Kombat. Let's just go ahead and go to Mario now. Go ahead and click it and went back. It's going to take a few seconds to take effect. But there's also something called the theme randomizer. So two things going on here. One is it has pre-installed a bunch of Hirsty themes, which as you see here, look how beautiful these are. You know, it looks really good. And so Hirsty's themes already installed, pre-installed. You don't have to download them and install them yourself. And then there's also a theme randomizer. So every time you reboot this Raspberry Pi, you'll be on a different theme. And if there's just one theme you want, like for example, I really like the Floyd theme we were just on, you could just turn that off and it'll auto-load into whatever you want. I also mentioned splash screens. That's the little video that plays when you boot up the Raspberry Pi. He has a variation of them, and so there's a different video every time you load up. You know, there's about 7 or more, so they'll kind of go through. Oh, the other thing, this has pre-installed a bunch of, you know, retro soundtracks as well. So there's background music going on as we're going through these menus until you launch a game, and then there's a, you know, it's automatically set up that the music stops once you're in the game. Moving back to some of these, you have the light gun. If you want to use an aim track light gun, the software is pre-installed. The date and time fix for the Dreamcast emulator is pre-installed. The Zinmo controller, especially if you're going to be doing 2-player arcade sticks, this is going to help you quite a bit. All sorts of stuff on here. I'm not going to get into all that. Network, you know, setting up your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth devices if you want to run a Bluetooth controller. System tools, you know, if you do want to add an external hard drive, it's on here. If you want to overclock, it's really easy to do. And update and upgrade your operating system, there's a script installed if you want to update it. I think majority of you watching this, though, are just going to want to, and then PLAYBOX has this there's more scripts here to check out as well. But a lot of you watching are just going to want to set it and forget it. And that's exactly why I wanted to show this off again. Because if I was new to the scene and I just wanted to play retro games, you know, I would absolutely, no hesitation, just go ahead and boot this up. So what kind of options do we have here for Mario? A lot. We have the original Game & Watch version. Dr. Mario. Super Mario RPG. Who wants to get lost in that? Please. And thank you. Let's go ahead and try Super Mario Brothers Deluxe. So because this is Game Boy, it wants to keep kind of the original aspect ratio. So it'll go ahead and you get the little bezel here. Look at those jumps. To exit a game, you're just going to hit select and start on your controller or whatever you set your hotkeys to. I'm using a Xbox 360 controller, so if I want to reset my controllers, you just hit start on your controller in the main menu, which I just left, and then go ahead and set up a controller. You can set up to 4 players easily on the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. You might even be able to do more if you do wireless. Ooh, look at that secret. I'll take that. Wow, he just like swims. So here you go, you can even do Sonic CD. As you see, it's running really good. Boom. I think I can jump through that, huh? Ah! Oh, no. I know one of these, right? I can... Well, let's finish off something good here.
Fighters ready. Engage.
Got him. So here you have it, a beautiful front end to retro game on this little $35 single board computer. And again, you could probably get it even cheaper now that it's been out for a really long time and people are probably selling used units. But as you see here, with the development of the community and pre-built things and there's packs already ready for you, you can drag and drop and add new games. You can customize this any way you want, but really the purpose of this video is just to show how simple this really is and how much work has already gone in, and that even today, many years later, this still holds up as a great solution to retro gaming. To have this little Raspberry Pi next to your TV ready to plug in, it uses very little bit of power. A ton of different controllers you can use with this thing. So if you ever, I'm sure you've heard the word Raspberry Pi, this is why. One of the reasons, especially with the retro gaming application. So shout out to V-Man because this image is still amazing. Shout out to the community because, you know, people like Hursty that made these themes, the RetroPie people that made the actual program. You know, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that make this possible. With all that said, I started this video, I think the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus should still be on your list of retro gaming devices, especially budget retro gaming devices. Especially if you can get like a pack where somebody's selling it, you know, they're selling it with a couple controllers, a case, you can really save a ton of change. So with all that said, try to convince me otherwise, but what I'm saying here is this still holds up. I would still rock this any day, and it just works. So with all that, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.